operational risk, it is a lever for sound business strategy. What is happening is many banks where I go, I have accounts in both public sector banks, private sector banks, and also a foreign bank. And wherever I go, I notice only what is the kind of operational risk methodology they are following. And I don't interfere in that, but I just follow. As a customer, I follow. I believe in going to the bank because I don't do many things online. Okay, I go to the bank just to observe this as to what has happened after I left the bank. I find that, in some banks, particularly the foreign banks, they're very, very particular. The private sector banks and the public sector banks are not so particular. So if you belong to either the public sector or the private sector, I would request you to take extra note of this, because this is going to be a lever for business strategy as also for a profit drive. Because if you want to increase the profit of the bank in the right way, okay, from banking and not just by selling third-party products and other things. If you want just the banking part of it, if you want it to be pure and profit-driven, then operational risk management is really, really important. Okay. So what is operational risk management? Yes, I'll go into the definition, but I'm not going to be bothered so much about the definition. What I'm going to take is some notes here and there where I have picked up during the course of my studies, during the course of my interaction with bankers, and also what I've been seeing for the last 2 years. Okay. But before that, just let's have a look at what has happened in the banking scenario. Maybe many of you were quite small. Okay. So that time you won't know the history part of it. History always tells us many things. Okay. There's a saying that if you don't know history, you're doomed to, repeat all the mistakes of history. So let us see what has happened in history. So this is what happened. 1995. Okay, that was a good, how many years ago? Okay, 18 years ago. So, sorry, more than that, 23 plus 5, 28, 20 years ago. So what happened? 1995. All of you would have been very, very young. Maybe some of you were not even born. So Barings Bank, a very big bank. It was a bank where the Queen of England had an account. And it was a bank, it was a very aristocratic bank, 233-year-old. That was the vintage of that bank. We always say, no, oh, that bank or that company is there for a very long time. So, we can trust that company. This bank, 233-year-old vintage, where the Queen of England had her accounts, this bank sank without a trace just because of one person called Nick Leeson. And if you have some paper and pencil before you, I will give you some notes here and there. Please note them down. Please read the book, The Rogue Trader, written by Nick Leeson himself when he was in prison, in Singapore prison. So you will know it was brought down just by one man. Okay, this was Barings Bank. Allied Irish Bank, same thing, unauthorized activity. National Bank of Australia, same reason again. You see how the mistakes are being repeated. SocGen, again, single man, 7.5 billion due to fraud. Okay, again, one man. Subprime crisis during the 2007, 2008, you would have heard about this. You would have talked a lot about this. Many pictures came out on this 2007, 2008 crisis. You would have seen some of those pictures like Wall Street and then The Big Short, this Catch Me If You Can. Catch Me If You Can was slightly different, not on the crisis, but different. Then The Wolf of Wall Street, all of those things, all on this 2007-8 crisis. Then recently we had, and even in following the crisis, we had the Greece debt in 2009. A country became bankrupt. Can you believe? Like how Pakistan has become today? The country became bankrupt. Greece became bankrupt in 2009. And in between 2008 and 2011, there was a problem in Iceland where all the major banks failed. It was one after the other. It was like, a cataclysmic effect of one bank's failure. Then we are talking of foreign countries. What about our country? 2019, if those of you who are in Mumbai, that's 2019 is not very far, just 4 years ago, we had the Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank failing. Indian rupees 65 billion lost. And what was that? Single exposure to one company, Housing Development Infrastructure Limited. Okay. And not repaid banks, the loans were not repaid. And that's how the whole thing blew up. The customers started asking for money and the bank covered up that story. Okay. The first bank did not come up with whatever there was the mistake. 2020, Yes Bank, you had a problem again. Yes Bank, what was the problem there? Of course, there were other things in the economy also which contributed, the GST, then the demonetization, RERA effect, that is the RERA effect which affected ILFS. ILFS was an infrastructure leasing company, okay? And it looked as if it was an Indian government company. No, it was not. And there was overexposure there to ILF, infrastructure leasing company. And what they did was, Yes Bank had high reliance on bulk deposit instead of retail deposit. Retail deposits tend to stay longer in the bank than the bulk deposit. For instance, if I may put a deposit of 50 crore today, I may withdraw it within 6 months or 1 year. But if 100 customers make up for that 50 crore, the chance is maybe 5 crores will be withdrawn, the rest of the 45 crores will remain. So that's why today, you find very often HDFC Bank particularly, they come up with CASA fortnight. CASA means current account, savings account fortnight. They want this fortnight. Why? Because they know current account and savings account is going to stay longer in the system than these bulk deposits. And bulk deposits come from big customers. They also ask for better rates of interest. Whereas small customers like me, they will not ask, so they will take whatever the bank gives. So that is the problem. That was a problem with Yes Bank. Of course, later on State Bank of India stepped in. Today it is on the path to recovery. But even today, there is high reliance on bulk deposits. If any of you are there from Yes Bank, you may accept it, and you may even go back and check. Then, again, going back to US, you had two big banks failing, Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, and First Signature Bank. Both banks, they had the ALM problem, asset liability management problem. All the money that they got, they invested in 30-year bonds. Long time, okay, 30-year bonds. So you won't get the money back, okay? So what happened there? When you invest that, when the venture capitalists and when the bank customers started asking for the deposit, they didn't have that money to give back. So there was a liquidity crisis. And then, of course, JP Morgan took over First Signature Bank and etc. all this. So what is happening is, although these things are documented, yet banks continue to make the same mistakes, unfortunately. Okay, so it is for us to know, like we say, okay, once you make a mistake, yes, it's a mistake. But the second time you make a mistake, it's a shame, isn't it? At least I'm talking the managements of the banks. Of course, I know at the ground level where you and I are, just a small cog in the wheel, we may not be able to express our view and nobody will even listen to us. But I'm talking of when you become the CEO or custodians of the bank, please listen to your inner voices. Please go back to history so that your bank does not repeat these mistakes. So these were just for information, 7 largest bank failures in terms of money. The first was Washington Mutual Bank, First Republic Bank, Silicon Valley, and then Signature Bank, IndyMac, Colonial Bank, and then First Republic Bank, Dallas. It was 17 billion in 1998 itself. So you can imagine how big it was. And you can see Washington Mutual, that was Washington Mutual Bank again was about an 83-year-old bank. Okay. Again, quite a good vintage, but you see what has happened. So coming to define the risk, what is operational risk? I won't use all these things. I'll just say, whenever a person makes a mistake, whenever there's a mistake in a process, whenever there is some problem with technology, today we are all surrounded by technology. Anything is technology driven. Yesterday I went to see a movie, there also it was technology driven. Everything I had to buy the ticket through the use of technology. Okay, so that's also as simple as that, but I have to use technology. Then also the external events. We'll see how the external events impact us. So it is a risk. Risk means in this case, in operational risk, friends, risk is always a loss, full stop. There's no way that there has been serendipity and there's been some, happy moments where, the risk turned out to be profitable. It is 99.9%, it's a loss. So the risk of loss resulting from inadequate or failed processes. Inadequate. Even you may have the process, but it is not adequate enough. Okay. So inadequate or failed process. The process itself failed. Okay. The system did not just log in. You could not log into the system that day. So loss of business. As simple as that. From whom? From the process, people, technology, and the external events. And more beauty is it includes the legal risk, because today I had to, let's say I had to make a SWIFT payment to my counterparty in the US and I could not make the payment. So that fellow is going to blacklist me. So it is my question of reputation. So I file a case against the bank. So legal risk is included, compliance risk is included, okay, but it includes strategic and reputation risk. So you may ask me why this is excluded. Imagine strategy is taken consciously, okay. Operational risk for a change is never taken consciously. It follows you like a shadow. Okay, credit risk is conscious. You know, when I give a loan to you, it is a conscious decision. But operational risk is not conscious. Okay, it is not even contextual. I'll tell you what it means very shortly. I'll tell you. Reputation follows because of the legal risk. So reputation, again, it takes long years to build a reputation, but it hardly takes 1 minute to bring it down. Okay. Now today you find, yesterday there was a article, JP Morgan, one of those dealers says that he was specifically asked to do wrong things. JP Morgan, the world's biggest bank. Sorry. So you can imagine, it is like, you know, greed for money never stops, friends. You know, these people earn pots and pots of money, but greed for money never stops. The day we stop being greedy, although in Wall Street, Gordon Gekko said, greed, for want of a better word, is good. Although he said that, but greedy being, at least in an institution, when you're greedy, then you're ready for a loss. Friends, is my speed okay or am I going very fast? Anyone can tell me?
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. So what are the reasons for operational risk? Okay. Increased use of technology. That all of you know, systems go down, sometimes technology itself fails, sometimes you do the patchwork for to correct something, then it hurts something else somewhere. So increased use of technology. E-commerce, Amazon, Flipkart, okay. Expansion in banking activities. What is the expansion in banking activities, friends? Now, for example, when Gulati ji and I were in the bank, we were only doing banking. But today, you all have to sell third-party products. You all have to sell insurance. You all have to sell sovereign gold bonds. You all have to sell mutual funds. And you all are bankers. You all do not know the problems in insurance. You may missell. You do not know the problems in mutual fund. You may do mis-selling there also. Okay. So expansion of banking activities. Increasing customer demands. Today, customer wants everything at this press of a button. He's not willing to wait. So the more you do, the more he wants. That's going to be the case always, just like you and me, isn't it? Once upon a time, we used to have a landline. We used to call. Sometimes the line will not be there. And then, you know, sometimes because of the rains, the lines will be down. All of this we've gone through. But today, if my cell phone, I don't get my number immediately, I get so irritated. People's attention span has reduced. And technology is the main culprit. I'm not ashamed to say that. Technology has made everybody want everything at the push of a button. Sometimes it's good, but most times it's not good. Okay. Emergence of new products and services. Okay. So now, payments. Today, payments is a big topic. Okay. Why it is becoming a big topic, let me tell you. We had one very mature, very robust payment system called SWIFT. And we used to transfer money from here to there to here. But now, with the sanctions on, because of Ukraine and Russia war, now SWIFT is not there in Russia, SWIFT is not there in China and in certain places. So what do? I have to build up my own arrangement. So there has to be a new product. Now rupee is becoming acceptable in Middle Eastern countries. It's acceptable in Russia and acceptable in some of the Southeastern countries, which was not the case, say about 1 year, 2 years ago. So these are the new products and services. Outsourcing arrangements. Okay. Outsourcing arrangements, your vendors, the technology given to you by your vendor. Is the vendor following all the risk requirements? How is it the data is being leaked? How is it so many Aadhaar cards details were leaked out? Who manages this? We don't know. So all your vendor, that's why the outsourcing arrangements and more focus by regulators on legal frauds and compliance issues. Today, banks are spending more time on compliance than on business. You will agree with me. If you don't send this statement, if you don't send that return, Reserve Bank is going to impose a fine on you. Climate risk, again, a new risk which has been on the rounds for the last 4 years or so. What is climate risk? Let me just give you one small example. Tomato, what happened? It was selling at 200 rupees a kilo. Onion is the next now, I think. I think they're going to alternate between onion and tomatoes. More than that, climate risk, okay? Banana, wo kela jo khate hain na, wo banana, the strains of it is disappearing. So maybe 50 years or 100 years from now, you may not have bananas. I'm talking of certain varieties, okay? Coffee, which you and I drink. Coffee is losing its aroma because of the nature of the soil, because of the kind of pesticides they use, because of the sunlight that it is getting. It is not getting the right sunlight. It's going to become costlier. It's also going to lose that original aroma. Flowers. India's flowers are beautiful because they all have scents. If you go to other countries like US and Europe, you'll find beautiful flowers, very beautiful flowers, very beautifully kept, but not one of them has a scent. It's India. Because of the tropical climate, your jasmine, your rose, your chameli, your rakirani, all those things, they have a beautiful aroma. Lilies, your Rajani Gandha, all of them, they will lose their Gandha. There'll be no Sugandh at all. Okay, because of climate risk. Agriculture will be affected. Your rice crop, your millet crop, your wheat crop, all of them will be affected. Climate risk. ESG requirements. ESG means environmental, social, governance. 3 words: environment, social, and governance. Environment. Now, people are increasingly investing in such companies where ESG is followed very clearly, where the company takes care of the environment, where a company is good with its internal customers as well as its external customers, and a company whose governance is good. So people, the generation Z, Gen Z as we call them, they are investing in these kind of companies. They are not investing in profitable companies, so-called profitable companies, because profit alone is not the buzzword. So these are the ESG requirements. So all these paint companies, these leather companies, tanning companies, your petroleum companies, all these, your tobacco companies, ITC, all these companies are hard pushed, to maintain these things. Outsourcing itself, okay, it is following the outsourcing requirements. How much can you outsource? What can you outsource? In some banks in India itself, I know that the documents for housing loan, they're all kept not by the bank, but by somebody else. It's outsourced. And if you lose a housing document, how serious it is. But it is there. It is being followed. M&As, mergers and acquisitions and demergers. We hear a lot of mergers and acquisitions, but it's not easy to, get the culture of the new person who's coming in, new company which is coming and get into our culture. It takes a long time. The learning curve is very long. So therefore, that causes operational risk. Their way of doing business is different. Our way of doing business. Even you would have seen in your own bank, if somebody has joined new from another bank, they'll say, in our bank, we used to do like this. In our bank, we used to do like this. So, these things. So they may not be happy to do the way your bank is doing, or they may not like it. Okay. Then AML, CFT risk, anti-money laundering, and countering the financing of terrorism, that risk. Money laundering day in and day out. If you're reading the newspapers, you must have come across how many politicians are taking care of, how many of them are under the ED lens, so money laundering. So all these risks. Then as per RiskNet is a very nice document, friends. Whenever you get time, please read this document. They have listed the top 10 risks. These are the top 10 risks in order of their importance in 2022, as recent as that. IT disruption is the biggest risk, the topmost risk. It is at number 1. Data compromise. All of you now today, you know how important data is. Gold, friends. Gold is not gold. Data is gold, or even more than gold. Resilience risk. What is resilience risk? How soon can you jump back? How soon can you come back to normalcy? That is, if there is a disaster, how soon can you come back? Let's say now we had this COVID, isn't it? COVID. So all the banking activities are reduced to just the basic requirements. You could not access the locker, you could not do certain other things. So only the basic things. So how soon can the bank come back to its normalcy? That is resilience risk. Theft and fraud. People are getting more intelligent, hacking. You would have just read in the paper, somebody stole so much from the safe deposit locker. A bank official was found through that. Third party risk is the next one, which is your vendor risk. Conduct risk. Conduct risk again. How you conduct yourself. What does that mean? Can I beat a customer just because I don't like a customer's face? Can I beat him? Can I behave rudely with him? Okay. And I don't know, some time ago, and about 6 months ago, I had a WhatsApp where in one of the banks somewhere in Maharashtra, a customer, I don't know what kind of customer he is, he comes and hits a bank officer. So conduct risk, can this bank officer hit him back? Even for self-defense, I don't know. So conduct risk, this is important. Then regulatory risk, you know that what RBI wants. And now since you're doing third-party selling also, IRDA also will come in, SEBI also will come in for mutual funds. Organizational change, any organizational change, you will have things like, HSBC is now reducing the office space by 40%. This work from home, it has really changed the topography of different companies. I find now where I go to certain companies I used to go, now I find when I go there, I find that places now become smaller. I ask them why. No, now 20% of our staff are working from home. Naturally, why should they have so many lights, so many tables, so that itself, that organizational change itself causes another kind of risk. Why? Because at home, now I'm speaking from home, I don't have the Chinese wall that you have in your bank when it comes to the internet. So if I talk, or if I'm an IT person working from home and I don't have the Chinese wall, so the organizational change that you're asking me to work from home could cause data breach. That data compromise is the big thing we just saw. So that could be the big thing, organizational change. Okay. Geopolitical risk. You don't have to go very far. Russia and Ukraine. Now, almost 20-25 countries are under US sanctions or UN sanctions. North Korea, Russia, Iraq, Iran, some countries in Africa, all these countries. Okay. So what do? Every time you process an LC, every time you pick up an export document, you have to see whether there's a sanction. If not a UN sanction, is there a UK sanction? Is there a US sanction? Sanction means your restriction. Okay. That's what it is. So these geopolitical, if by mistake your customer overlooks that, you also overlook that. And even if there is an indirect way of sending the goods, you could be caught. By indirect way, I mean, let us say I'm an exporter and you are my banker and I want to send some goods to Iran. I have some friend in Iran who wants my goods so badly. So what I do, I move the goods from India to Dubai. Okay. How far is Iran to Dubai? And they have open borders. Okay. So the fellow from Iran comes and takes it from the Dubai fellow. If the authorities find out that this is what I am doing, that is a geopolitical risk. So you see, even an indirect way of doing business with these sanctioned countries is not allowed. Okay. Employee well-being. During COVID, I know that some employees were not granted leave and that employee died. Okay. So these are, and you do not know how many customers came to the bank during those times during COVID. How many of them were, indirect carriers of COVID? How many of them gave their COVID virus to the officers, or how many officers gave the COVID virus to the others? We don't know. So employee well-being is very important, because if the employee is not mentally stable, if he is mentally upset, okay, then work will suffer. And we have seen the cases also, many cases, it happens all the time in the army, okay? They are not granted leave. And army life is not easy. It's not what they show in movies, also all those things. They they can't eat food the way you and I eat on time. Okay, 1 o'clock, chalo, lunch time. No, ऐसा नहीं होता है वहाँ पर. They have to eat food when they get time, when they find time. So employees there. So the army, how many times you've heard of some Lance Nayak or a Subedar shooting himself, shooting his officer because he was not granted leave? So employee well-being. And then this is mine, which is where I'm teaching ESG also. Biopolitical risk. Because of the geographic conditions, biology of the place changes. Because of the biology changing, the political risk emanates. So this is geo-biopolitical risk. Friends, if you all are buying newspapers along with business, please read those topics which come on climate change, because it will impact bankers, friends, hereafter. All of you who are in credit risk, this is going to be a part of your credit risk also, not just your operational risk. So please read the newspapers. Number one, if you're not reading, please start reading newspapers. Apart from the financial part, apart from the business part, what you read, please also read the topics or the question answers or some discussions come on climate, ESG. Please read them, because all these are going to impact your credit decisions also, your HR decisions. Okay, so you have to be careful. So this is why I added the geopolity, although it is not listed as per RiskNet. This I put it right at the end. That's why I said it is mine, geo-biopolitical risk. Any questions, friends, so far? All good? Okay. So this was all about the risk. Now, where does the process come? What kind of processes we make a mistake? Okay, incorrect transactions. Okay, instead of reporting a purchase of foreign exchange, I report a sale of foreign exchange. That's an incorrect transaction. Collateral management failure. The house which is mortgaged to me, now it has been washed away by the floods. The whole building in Chennai, where I'm speaking from, in Chennai, I'm taking the name because it is all in the papers. Jain Housing. Okay, they had constructed a multi-storied building. Within 5 years, things are falling. Terraces are falling. The walls are, all coming off. So imagine those people who have put their life's earnings on in that project. Wow, how will they feel? And if banks have given loan against that project, okay, and if they've given to individual people, if they've given loan for buying that plot, that flat, the collateral management is lost. The collateral is lost. So that is, see how a credit risk becomes an operational risk now. Compliance issues. What does it mean of compliance issue? Okay, in some banks, they have to swipe their card for their attendance, which shows their time and what time they walked in. Okay, now if some particular staff does not follow that, it's a compliance issue. It has to be reported, and that becomes an operational risk for you also. Tomorrow, if there's a fraud or something happened, you won't be able to pin this employee down if he was involved in that. Accounting and taxation errors, accounting, double counting, or for that matter, if I show, one of the things which caused this 2008 crisis was many of the contingent liabilities which you show in the balance sheet, many of them which they should have shown it as a proper balance sheet item, they showed it as an off balance sheet item. So that's an accounting error. Knowing fully well, that was an accounting error. Taxation, okay, you take it as capital, but that fellow says, no, it is revenue, so therefore you have to pay the tax. So taxation errors. Inadequate record keeping or documentation, that all of this self-explanatory, I don't have to say that. Data entry errors, again, self-explanatory. On the people part, what does it contribute? Fraud, employee illness and injury. Okay, if a particular employee regularly reports illness, okay, and now you have, I do not know, somewhere I read, India having the population of 140 crores, most diabetics are in India, and India is going to be the diabetic capital of the world. Isn't that sad, friends? So sad. So if a person is a diabetic, he'll not be well. He won't be able to apply his mind 100%. He will not be able to give his 100% to the job. So again, that will affect your business. Workers' compensation claims. This happens, let's say, a particular panel which was on top of my head. It fell on my head. And then, I got hurt, and the bank has not reimbursed my injury, my hospitalization bill or something like those kind of compensations. Or this happened in one of the branches. We have these security guards. They also have a pistol. They also have a gun. I don't know. This fellow was only cleaning his gun. He says he was cleaning his gun. Accidentally, it went off. It hit a customer. Okay. So the customer, actually, the bank is liable. So workers' compensation claim. In this case, it was customer compensation claim. Discrimination claims. In public sector banks, not so much, but in private sector banks, I do not know. There could be discrimination between male workers and female workers. In IT, maybe there's male workers and female workers. In public sector banks, we all got the same salary, whether it was a man or a woman. If you're in a particular grade, you all got the same salary. But in public sector, there could be other kinds of discrimination. Okay, so that should be taken care of. Insufficient employee capacities. Okay, insufficient employee capacities means I don't train my staff. I put him in cash. That fellow doesn't know how to handle cash. Every other day, either cash received is less or cash paid is more. So is it his mistake or is it my mistake? As a manager, I should not have done that, isn't it? So inadequate employee capacities. Problems relating to recruiting or retaining staff. Yesterday, I got a nice thing. Which bank, what is the rate of attrition? I don't want to name the bank, but it was a private sector bank, which had 47% attrition. 47 means nearly 50% per year. Okay. State Bank was quite low because it's a public sector bank, number one. Number two, there also it was something like not too good, but it was not too bad also. Punjab National Bank was very good, just 2.8%. So just to say that, today recruiting staff is difficult. Retaining the staff is more difficult because you train them, you teach them, you do everything. Then one fine day he comes and says, sorry, I got an appointment somewhere else. I'm getting 20,000 more. I'm going. Today, friends, who are your poachers, bankers? You're all in the bank. Where people are going? They're going to fintech companies. They're going to NBFC companies because they get paid more. And maybe the service conditions are better there. We don't know. So this is the problem. So and why this is important? Because if this person who's leaving has some important data with him from the bank, remember as bankers, we have an oath to secrecy. So if some data is compromised, some data is out in the open, then you had it. That particular bank had it. So that is why this is the people problem. Systems problem, I'm just going to read it. Okay, it's all self-explanatory. Hardware, software failure, unavailability and questionability of the data itself, whether it is the good data or not good data. Unauthorized access to information and system security. There are some places where you're not allowed. Server, for instance, server room. Not everyone is authorized to go. Only the engineer who's authorized must go. But if I go walk in and walk out as if it's, I know something about it, then I could be a serious source of operational risk. Telecom problems, computer hacking, crypto coins. This is a new kid on the block. Cryptocurrency. Today, many of these terrorists, they're not those terrorists like how or those villains whom we used to see in movies, like Peter with some golden hair and a cigarette in his mouth, that Ajit and all those fellows used to come. They're all very suave people, very well educated. They're all engineers. Some of them are PhDs. Okay. And today these terrorists are not bothering even to come through the banking. So AML, from that point of view, terrorists are not coming so much. They are using the crypto coins. They are using the dark net. Okay. So those of you who know that, don't ever go to the dark net because you could be sucked into that. It is a very dangerous place. The dark web, the dark net, never ever go there. External events, anything that happens outside, you must see whether it will affect your bank in some way or the other. For example, fire or natural disaster. Now you see what is happening in Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. What happens to the banks which have, given loans for those houses or for those hotels? Then suppliers or outsourced operations. My supply is stopped. Okay. What is my supply? Let's say my cash. I have to get cash because mine is a cash intensive brand. I don't get my cash. because the because of this landslide, the van is not able to come from there to here. Then terrorism, theft, robbery caused by anybody outside the organization. All these things are external events. Just because a terrorist attack has happened in the neighboring branch doesn't mean I can say, no, in my branch it won't happen because, I have my CCTV, I have my security guy, so everything is fine. You have to see that your thing is taken care of, your staff are safe, that you have all, whatever your head office has said in terms of precaution, please follow that. Okay, it's not like your choice. Oh, if you want, you wear a helmet. If you don't want, you don't wear a helmet. You want to wear a seat belt, you want to wear a seat belt, or you don't. No, it's not your choice. It is a bank's requirement, because not only your life is at stake, somebody else's life is also at stake. So this is the framework. I'll not go seriously into the framework because each bank would have a different format, but just I'll go through the broad contours of it. First of all, you must have a policy. The bank should have a risk management policy, because risk management, friends, it starts from the top. It is not bottom up. 100th time I can say that it starts from the top. If your top is not risk savvy, you cannot expect the last man who's standing at the branch to be risk savvy. Okay, sab chalta hai, attitude chalega. So risk policy has to be there, risk strategy has to be there. Then an organization structure that supports it also has to be there. And then you have the process. What is the process? It's very simple. You identify the risk, assess the risk, monitor the risk, and then mitigate and control the risk. So this is what you have to do. And then you have the role of supervisors and role of disclosures. That we will not take so much in detail because that is the role of supervisors. Let them do their work. So what is the risk management environment? First of all, have an approval from the board of directors. Okay, that's why I said it has to start from the top. And there has to be an independent audit function and implementation by senior management. That's what I said. Risk management starts from the top. The policy starts from the top. This organization structure starts from the top. The culture starts from the top. What I mean by culture, friends, if you go to Tehran, if you go to Tel Aviv, this place, Israel, even a 5-year-old child, if he sees some unauthorized packet somewhere, because Israel is surrounded by enemies, so-called enemies of Israel, okay? Israel is surrounded by those. Now, even if a 5-year-old sees some package which is lying suspiciously, he will go to the nearest police station and inform. There is some packet lying there for last 1 hour or so. Please check. So for the police to come and check. They are trained like that. That culture is imbibed in them. Whereas hum kya karte hain? In one scooter where you're supposed to go where only 2 persons are supposed to go, 6 persons, 7 persons will sit. Sab Ram bharose. Or Allah will take care of it. That's all. That's not good, friends. So organization culture is important. So the culture has to start from top again. We have to evangelize that culture within the branch, within the office. Then internal controls also have to be quite robust so that this culture is supported. So the policy will, those who make the policy will take care of all this, the risk governance, the management framework, and all this will depend on the size of the bank, the complexity of activities. For instance, the risk policy of a State Bank of India will be very different from a risk policy of, let's say, Axis Bank, or for that matter, even a City Union Bank. Then framework should be designed as per risk appetite. Okay. Again, for State Bank of India, a loss of 10 lakhs is not a big deal. But for a CUB or for Axis Bank, a loss of 10 lakhs is quite big. Each business line has to comply with the overall risk strategy of the bank. Although I am coming to that a little later, but before that I'm saying, see, in the Basel II system, we had the verticals. What are the verticals? Credit was a vertical, business was a vertical, sales was a vertical, products was a vertical. So each was a vertical. So each of the verticals had to manage its own risk. Okay. And that strategy has to be dovetailed into the organizational policy. Board of directors, this is what the RBI says, there has to be a risk management committee. So you have to have a risk management committee meeting every month. Every month, what are the risks that have happened? What are the risks that have taken place in branches? And you see here, there's a credit risk management committee, market risk management committee, and operational risk management committee, which is, again, taken care of by the chief risk officer. But that chief risk officer, again, you see the credit risk and market risk is taken care of. Yes. Under the OR, you see how many divisions are there. The business operational risk manager, the risk management specialist, and the department heads. So you see how detailed they are, because this operational risk is something which is following you like a shadow. Okay, it is not taken voluntarily. Involuntarily, it comes along with you. So this is what the structure suggested. So here in your bank, you must be predominantly seeing something like this. If you know, there's a board of directors, independent audit committee. The audit committee has to be totally independent. Then OR committee, OR risk management committee, and then OR function, then the business lines and the sub-business lines. So the audit committee is kept separate because they should not kowtow with the OR committee. The operational risk management committee is not a subset of audit committee. Audit committee is entirely different. So what is the method to manage this operational risk? Sir, I'll finish this and then I think I should give them a break. Am I right, Mr. Gulati ji? Mr. Gulati? Okay, I'll go on. He asked me to stop after 40 minutes. So anyway, I'll finish this. So this is the operational risk management process. First, you identify the risk. You see the outer circle, outer square rather. You see you identify the risk. Then you assess the risk. How much loss has this risk caused us? Then you put some controls. You monitor the risk whether after these controls the risk is mitigated or not. If after monitoring you find again that no, the risk hasn't reduced, again you go for further risk control and mitigation, maybe some higher level of risk control and mitigation, and then you again identify the risk. So it is a continuous exercise. It's not a one-time exercise. It is a continuous exercise. There is a joke. I think it came as a WhatsApp this thing, but I'll tell you the joke. See what happened in a hospital every day at 11 o'clock, at least the patients in the ICU died. There were 10 patients in the ICU. In that hospital, every morning at about 11 o'clock, all these ICU patients died. Oh, everybody was wondering, what is this? So the sweeper who was coming there, he used to switch off the mains, and from which all these other, medication was going on. So because of his non-training or because of his negligence, I won't call it negligence, because of his ignorance, he caused the deaths of so many people. Now, maybe that was a story, but it can happen in the bank also. Somebody goes and puts on the wrong switch. That's why server room is very important. I said, if I go and manipulate the server room just to say, oh, if I move this, I can move one button here, one button there. I don't see any, obvious changes, but it could go and affect some other activity somewhere. So that risk identification is important. Risk assessment is important. Immediately put on some controls, try to monitor the risk, and then you put on the advanced controls and mitigation processes. And then we have in the risk itself, we all have key risk indicators. What is a key risk indicator? Now take your car's dashboard. See your car's dashboard now today, in all these high-end model cars, the car's dashboard looks almost like a pilot's cockpit. It's got so many readings. Okay, it shows the tire pressure of each tire. It shows whether any door is open. It shows whether people have put on the seat belt. It shows the petrol tank, whether it's full or half, or when it is going to go full off. Then it shows the temperature of the engine. Then it shows whether your brake oil is enough or not. So many things it shows. So all these are key risk indicators for the car. Similarly, for the bank's process also, you have the key risk indicators. So, for example, if a branch particularly is holding high levels of cash, it's a key risk indicator, because if there's a burglary, all the cash could be, and insurance. This is very important, friends. See, every branch has got a certain level of insurance. So let's say my branch has got a level of insurance for 10 lakhs of rupees. And my branch is in a business area. Every time customers come and give me cash. So on a regular basis, I'm not having 10 lakhs in my kitty, in my till, in the safe, in the cash safe room. I'm having more than 20 lakhs. And I'm reporting it. And currency chest, they have their own problems. They also don't take, and all these things, transport, all these things are there. So regularly, if I'm having 20 lakhs, what should the bank do? The bank, the higher level, the zonal office or the regional office, they should come and verify as to what should be done. Either they have to increase my insurance level, or they have to make arrangements from some other neighboring branch, which is always short in cash, to come and pick up the cash from here, instead of me depositing the currency chest and the currency chest again going and giving it to that. So this kind of internal arrangements have to be there. That is a key risk indicator. Then risk and control self-assessment. What is this risk control self-assessment? When before, all of you, for you all, the 12th standard was a very big story. So before the 12th standard, in your school, you would have had model exams. At least 1 or 2 model exams you would have had. What is that model exam? It is showing you where you're weak, which subject you are slightly weak on. Okay, so you can buck up, or which question is not properly understood by you, or which particular mathematical problem is giving you a problem, giving you a headache. So all these things are your model school, that model exam. Same thing, these risk and control self-assessment. You have to go through each process where there's an obvious problem. Go through that process and find out what that process is and see how you can mitigate that. That's known as risk and control self-assessment. And then most important, operational loss database. You have to have an operational loss database, because the new standardized approach which is kicked in from April 2023. If you don't have the operational loss database, you have to have a high level of operational risk capital. If you have a high level of operational risk capital, you cannot do business. You cannot do more business, isn't it? This increased CRR is causing a liquidity problem in the banks. Already started. This is an operational risk. So now, you will not find cash roaming around so much. Why did RBI do it? RBI did it because they thought there's too much of liquidity in the system. So they mopped it up. So now they mopped it up. Now banks are facing this liquidity problem. So now if you tell your customers that, no sir, cash nahi hai, or 500 nahi hai, 100 nahi hai, particularly if these chiller customers, retail customers, they will go to some other bank. They'll move their accounts to some other bank who is more friendly towards them. So the loss of that. So you see, you're losing a customer because of not having the right kind of denomination in cash, for example. Okay, so that is this kind of loss database you have to maintain. Otherwise, if you have to maintain a higher capital, then that much of business is less. So these are the causes. You have to find out that cause led to what event, and whatever that event, what could lead to the effects of that. So this is the whole risk management process, friends. So the process is identification, assessment, regular monitoring and reporting. Reporting, friends, everywhere the operational word, the operating word is reporting and reporting and reporting. If we don't report, we lose. And I'll tell you the importance of it very shortly. Proper mitigation and control. It should not be just for the sake of, I did something, I did this mitigation. It has to be a proper mitigation. It has to be really checked. The quality of that mitigation has to be checked by somebody else. And establishment of contingency and business continuity plan. BCP is a very important aspect of operational risk. It has, because of the rains, because of some earthquake, because of something, the systems may not work in a particular place. But if you have a good BCP in place, the systems will come up within the next 4 or 5 seconds. That is a test of a good BCP. So BCP is a very important, very crucial aspect of operational risk. That is business continuity plan. If you're not able, now I have had experiences where I bank with a certain bank, where the branch near my house was not working for some reason. So they asked me to go to another branch, maybe 2 kilometers away. And that branch was taking all the transaction of this branch. So this is the business continuity plan. It could be localized, or it could be a global thing like, the floods or the earthquakes or any of those things. And you have the tools for assessment, as we said, the key risk indicators, the risk and control self-assessment, and the operation loss database. Friends, a database is very important because as per the new standardized approach, okay, which is going to be very, very critical. Why critical? Because it hinges very much on the database. Only for small banks, the database is not so important. But for medium-sized banks and for large banks, the operational database for the last 10 years is very, very critical. Okay. And I'll tell you how to make that operational database. I have a template to show that. Then the keys, risk indicator, just some examples. Percentage of absenteeism resulting from illness or injury. If a person is continuously absent, somebody else has to take on that work. So naturally, there will be an overwhelming problem there. Number of vacant positions not filled up. Staff turnover, I spoke about that some time ago. And percentage of training against the budget. People look at training as a wasteful expenditure. People look at training as if it's a paid holiday. Okay. What, nowadays, how these foreign banks are, asking people to train themselves. They say, look, these are the topics. You choose the topic that you want. You pay for the topic. And after successful completion of the topic, that means the training company conducts an exam for them, then you will be reimbursed the amount. So now, they have understood that many people come for training just because, they have to do that. Particularly in some of these IT companies, there's a rule that you have to do 8 hours of training every quarter. So they come and sit in any program, which is not even related to them, which is a waste of time and resource and money, of course. So therefore, they said, you select the program you want, you sit there, you do the test, and then you give us the bill, we'll reimburse the bill. So percentage of training cost against a budget. So they want training to be useful. Think with this, that's what I said. What is the cost which led to this event? And because of this event, what was the effect of that event on the bank or the society at large? So this is how it is. The cause could be the people, system, process, or any external event. The events could be any of this. Internal fraud, employee practices and workplace safety, damage to physical assets, process management itself could be impacted. Okay. External fraud, clients, products, and business practices. The clients could be a party to the fraud. Because of that, the business practices could get changed. I don't want to name the bank again. I know that in the eastern region where we worked, some cashiers used to lend cash to their very favorite customers in the morning. Say those days amount was in thousands, okay? Say 50,000, 60,000. And before the close of the day, that fellow will come and return this cash. So during the day, he will rotate that cash. So the clients themselves could be involved in some business practices, business disruptions, and systems failures. So these are the events that happen because of that. What could be the effect of these events that happen? It could lead to legal liability, lead to loss of assets. It could lead to regulatory hits, from the RBI, or for now you have IRDA and SAB also. Compliance could take a hit. You could have taxation penalties, reputation risk. Oh, don't go to that bank, this thing happened, that thing happened. Business and strategic impacts. Naturally, a business will be affected. If reputation goes, a business will definitely be affected. So these are the offshoots of not having a proper policy. Role of supervisors, I'll leave it because it's not really connecting to us. But where this matters is what the supervisor should see. They have to evaluate the risk and whether our capital base is adequate. This is what they have to see, and it's for them. They have their tools to do it. Role of disclosure, banks. Friends, it is just like when you were young, what your father and mother said, tell the truth and you'll be saved. So even if you made a mistake, you may be crying, you may be getting a shout at that, but it's okay. But you would go and tell your father or mother, whoever was dear to you, whoever was more acceptable to you in that sense. Okay, you'll go and tell, please, this is what I did, Amma, Pa, please save me. You would say that. So same thing here. In the case of banks, I have no choice. It is RBI, remember. Okay, RBI is my father, mother, brother, sister, everything. So I have to disclose my risk profile. I have to give both qualitative and quantitative information about credit, market, and interest rate and operational risk. What is qualitative and quantitative? Quantitative, it's the numbers. That's not a problem. Qualitative, what kind of credit I have? Oh, I have loaded my credit book with hundreds of accounts. But what's the quality of those credits? Are they all app driven? Or have you used some common sense at some times? That quality is important. Then market. I have done investment banking. Have I sized the market so properly? Have I understood the market properly? Or I'm just going with the herd? Then interest rate. Am I now see banks are free to move their interest rates? Have I tweaked my interest rate in tune with the risk involved? And what are the other operational risks? My branch is located in an area which is infested with thieves, infested with burglars. So that's not a great area at all. We call them hardship branches. In our lingo, we call them hardship branches. In Bihar, for instance, I'm not saying anything against the state, but this has happened. And my friend who was sent to Bihar after his promotion, he didn't know Hindi. So he knew only English and his local language. So when he sat there, Bihar at that time, when I'm talking of the 80s, okay, one tall fellow will come with a turban on his head, and he'll with all the, bullets and all that, listed on his waistcoat, and he'll come and say, if you give a loan to that Babu Rao, you will be shot dead, because he was a credit officer. After 10 minutes, another fellow will come, tall fellow, same thing with the same turban and all those bullets. If you don't give loan to that fellow, you'll be shot. Now you tell me what this officer will do. So these are the operational risk. Okay, so you'll have to check that. So these are things which are live, friends. These are happening. These happen. See, many cases, many of us, we live in urban areas. We do not know what are the things that happen in many of the rural areas, many of these suburban areas. Not here, maybe in some other parts of the state. So these are no-go areas also. And then we Bank of India, we were a lead district. We had the lead district in Bihar. So you can imagine at that time what it could have been. Okay. So these operational risk exposures have to be mentioned. Risk measurement processes. What kind of risk measurement process you are having? How are you measuring the risk? Are they robust enough? Do they need tweaking? Do you need technology help? Today, technology can help you immensely. Today, artificial intelligence is a very big tool. You can use it. And what is a risk management strategy? So all this is for investors to understand whether this bank is following a good risk practice so that I can invest in the shares of this bank. Okay. So this is the role of disclosure. So this is, again, this is important. Item number 3. Item number 2, of course, is important. Statement of loss events and operation losses. What are the loss events? We just saw what are the events. Okay. So many events are given. About 8 events are given. You can add as many as you want. Okay. If the only thing is put it in the proper bucket. And what are the losses because of that? And then how much you had near miss losses, near miss operational risk events. What is the meaning of near miss? I was almost about to pay a check which was forged. But somehow, luckily, I checked that it was a forged check. And then when we contacted the customer said he has never issued such a check. So it was also the customer's contributory negligence that he had left his checkbook. Okay. So therefore, this has to be checked. So these near misses also have to be reported. Okay. Near misses are as important as the actual losses, because that will tell you what are the controls that are required for that. So the benefits of operation risk management: improves operating efficiency, reduces earning volatility. Volatility means if the business grows, your profit also grows. So it will not be volatile, going up and down. Improves the reputation of the bank, advances the external rating. Tomorrow your bank wants to go for an FPO. Almost all banks have had an IPO, but now they want to go for an FPO, follow on. They want to raise a capital from outside. So you need ratings, okay? You need all these external ratings. So it helps you in the external rating. Enhances the performance measurement by linkage to risk sensitivity. How careful are your staff? So if your staff are careful, therefore, you will know that you're in safe hands, okay? For example, by all of us go by train or plane, okay? Are we asking for the pilot's certificate? Here, let me tell you a joke, because it's been too much of a heavy thing. Some time ago, when I say sometime, it is about 4 years ago, one of my friends was flying from Bombay to Chennai. And that time, SpiceJet was in the news saying that they are, employing not so skilled pilots. So the SpiceJet, he had a SpiceJet ticket and he showed it to the lady. The lady said, "May I have your identity, please? May I know?" So he said, "Yes, I'll definitely show my identity, but please show me the pilot's identity, madam, who is going to fly my plane, because I want to know your airline is in the news for all the wrong reasons." So the lady, poor thing, she was so taken aback. So this is the story. So for us, performance measurement by linkage to risk sensitivity. Now you see another thing, this Boeing Max, always there was some problem with the aircraft, which was not known to the pilots, because the pilot training would cost a lot. Look at the way these companies cut costs, okay? By not giving training, what happened? So there was this Lion Air that met with an accident. One other airline somewhere in Africa, I think, that met with an accident, because the pilots were good. Pilots are all trained pilots, but this particular feature was properly not trained. So that was a thing. So that is what it is. Enhance the performance measurement by linkage to risk sensitivity and proper capital allocation. So the probability and impact, each bank will have its own. For instance, some bank will say if it is rare, it happens once in 10 years. Probability, unlikely, it happens every year, but possible once a month, likely once a week, and almost certain every day. So you will group it among them. And the impact of it again, RBI has given the threshold level as 1 lakh. Okay. Here we have just shown something insignificant, 1,000, and minor 1,000 to 10,000, moderate 10,000 to 1 lakh, and major is 1 lakh. Catastrophic beyond 1 lakh. So you can give, depending on the size of your bank, your risk policy will say what is the probability level, what is the impact level. And for example, here we say the risk is incorrect response to an emergency. There's a fire. There's a small fire in the branch rather. So how do you respond? Is your fire extinguisher working? Is your fire extinguisher up to date? Is it filled up to date? Okay. So the probability of it happening is 5. Okay. 5 means almost certain every day, because your branch is in a place where this electric short circuits happen. What is the impact? It could be 3, because we have taken enough measures to take care of that. So this is just an example as to how you measure this probability and impact. So probability and statistics are just not the tools. Remember, we are talking of operational risk, and just because something hasn't happened in the past there's no guarantee it will not happen today. And just because something happened to somebody else, it will not happen to me today. Okay. So these can lead to blind spots. So example is 2005, we had the tsunami. Nobody knew that word tsunami. It is a Japanese word actually. Nobody knew that word was called tsunami. So that tsunami came, and what happened? So many people died, so many people lost their homes, etc., etc. Then how now today, whenever there's a storm, those people who are living on the fringes of those seas, they are vacated. They're asked to evacuate from that place. So people are taking care. Then what happened in 2005 July again? That when there was this heavy downpour in Mumbai, and Bombay was underwater. So if my my server room and all those things are underwater, what happens? So how do I work? So all these kind of things are happening. These things happen. So these are known as black swan events. What is the meaning of black swan event? That is, you have seen a white swan, but just because you haven't seen a black swan doesn't mean there is no black swan. And actually it is there in Australia. Okay. The genus is Cygnus atratus. It's a native of Australia. So these are known as black swan events. Friends, if you have the time, I would like you to read that book by Nicholas Nassim Taleb. Very good writer. He's a mathematician. Okay, he's a very intelligent person. He writes very well. He has written a lot of books. Fooled by Randomness. That's a book written by him. Another book is Black Swan. So when you read these books, you get to know what these events are. So again, here operational risk is not taken on voluntary basis, but it's a consequence of an activity. So the difference between, say, market risk and credit risk vis-a-vis operational risk. Market risk and operational risk is consciously taken, willingly faced. Operational risk is unavoidable. This is speculative market risk. Sorry. And you could have a loss, you could have a profit, but here it is a loss only event. And market risk can be positive. Risk, like we say, if you take high risk, you get a high reward. If you take low risk, you get low reward. Sometimes there's a positive correlationship. This is not consistent at all. Easy to identify and understand, difficult to measure, price or even transfer. We have hedging instruments in the case of market risk. And here we have only insurance, operational risk, and that also very limited. So you have to pay very high premium. Okay. So one of the reasons of the 2008 crisis was the CDS. Okay. Because you took these credit default swaps for all these mortgage obligations. So that's why one of those things. So these are some examples. I told you in the beginning, I told you SocGen was brought down by one chap, and how he was unauthorized because the front office and the back office was taken care of by him. So this fellow's name was Jerome Kerviel, and he was in profit. Okay, sometimes he was in profit. So the back office, the people who are managing the profit, they just kept quiet because he's in profit. Just because you're in profit doesn't mean the risk is not there. And he was also fudging the books. And then finally, when the whole thing blew up, 7 billion was a loss. This was SocGen. Again, it was a process failure, people failure and process failure, because you should not put one man in charge of back office, front office, mid office. They should be segregated. This man was one person, all in all. We say sometimes we take pride in saying, oh, I'm all in all. I'm the person who's signing the market paper, that is a relationship manager's paper. I'm also signing the credit. It may look very distinguishable for me, be saying, oh, see, the bank is reliant on me, but actually from a risk perspective, it's not. KFW, this is again a question of automation. KFW, they had a swap with Lehman Brothers. Swap means, you give me something, I give you something, exchange, okay? So what they did, this KFW had wanted a swap with this Lehman Brothers. They paid their francs with the German bank, and through CLS. CLS is a continuous link system. They paid through the bank there, through the Apex Bank. That is in the case of the country's bank. So that it is taken, the risk is taken care of. Then this amount went through, but what happened? Lehman Brothers, that went bankrupt. So the other party who had to receive that amount could not receive the amount in New York. So this was automation. So you had put it up for a Monday transaction. This was done on Friday, whereas Saturday, Sunday holiday. And Lehman Brothers, when it opened on Monday, it was declared that it was under liquidation. So be careful of technology. Bear Stearns Orchid Chemicals, very interesting, because Orchid Chemicals is an Indian company. Orchid Pharma, Orchid Chemicals, very, very well-maintained company, and these shares were a blue chip share. Okay, so Bear Stearns was an investment company, and they had invested in Orchid Chemicals. But when Bear Stearns went bad, they started offloading the Orchid Chemicals shares. What happened to Orchid Chemical shares? When you offload the shares, what happens? The share price falls down. Meanwhile, the Orchid Chemicals promoters, they had pledged their shares with India Bulls to get some money. When the share price fell, naturally India Bulls started saying, hey, come on, please give me the margin money because your prices are falling. And then finally what happened? Bear Stearns, they had to face insolvency. So the price of the share, which was about 330, fell to 200, later on went to 110. So competitors of Orchid, because Orchid is a good company otherwise, competitors of this market, they took this shares at 110 and then they built up their portfolio. This is a very interesting story again. Tokyo Stock Exchange. JCOM was a newly listed company. The company wanted to initiate trade on the debut date. The debut date means first date. This broker, Misoho, you always have to do through a broker, isn't it? Because on the exchange, he was asked to put in one trade, one share equal to 6 lakh yen. Yen is like Naya Paisa. Okay. So many Naya Paisa. For example, $1 is equal to 102 yen or something. For us, $1 is equal to 83 rupees. Okay. There's like 102 yen. So one share at 6 lakh yen. By mistake, the broker placed a sell order for 600,000 shares at 1 yen. Can you believe it? Okay. And because this was a new company, nobody could see except the other traders who were watching this. They kind of said, hey, there's some mistake. So let me buy the shares. So these traders fellows, they bought the shares. But actually the company had only 15,000 shares, 600,000 shares to Thaini. So 15,000 shares only they were there. So the difference between one share at 600,000 and one at 1 yen, the difference was 40 billion yen, which was $330 million. So naturally the company had to pay. So the dealer, why did he ignore the signs? Because it was the first day, so there was no price limit set. So sometimes we also do that, isn't it? When our computer says, your security, your computer is at, there's a security breach in your computer, please take care. Sometimes we say, hey, shut up, come on, we go on. Friends, this is what happens. There was no red flag at all. So look at the kind of loss that a small mistake. If it was manual, we could have changed it. But this went into the Tokyo Stock Exchange. So the other traders took advantage of it. So no amount of complex modeling can substitute for good judgment and unknowns. So good judgment is more important, friends. Any app, any system is not good enough. The human brain is the best system. So good judgment is most important. This is said by Frank Knight. And after this incident reporting, how you should do, I told you loss of database is important. Every day in your branch, there will be some incident or the other. It could be very, very rare that any branch has no incident. Even a small incident like, not having water for the customers. That is an incident because customer will come and complain. I'm just giving an example like this. Or not putting up proper notices. Let us say you change the rate of interest. So you're supposed to put up the rate of interest. Half the time I find the digital board is not working at all in some branches. So these things, and if I go through the old digital board, what is there, and I put it, and then I make a mistake, I could take the bank to the lawyers. So that should not. So date of incident, date of reporting the incident. Incident could have happened 2 days ago, but you come across it only today. So the knowledge comes to you only today. Name of the branch, which region or zone as you call it. What was the description? Description, don't give a Ramayana, give a small thing, bullet points. This happened, and then what you're taking. So is it a control failure? Is it a process failure? Is it a people failure? Is it a system failure? That you have to decide. So you make your Excel sheet the way you want, make it as granular as possible. What is meaning of granular? As detailed as possible. Okay, it should be in an Excel sheet so that you can list all those things. So please send, if it is a major incident, please report immediately. But if these are minor incidents, you can report it once a week or once in 15 days, depending on what your bank's policy says. So create a risk register like that. Then, in the case of RCSA, pick up a small process and then have an internal audit report. See if the internal audit has said something about the process. If they have not said, you find out what the problem is, because the auditors are also human beings. They could have made a mistake. Okay. So now you say, or this has happened after a new process has been started. Auditors did it, say last year, new process has started this year. So you're having these bugs. So see what those bugs are, create that, and then talk with the stakeholders. Look, we are reporting this. See, friends, in the operational risk, you must talk to each other as if you're a helping person. Okay. You're not in the audit function. Even auditors are trained not to be as if they are some gods from somewhere. So you are only a colleague of that person. Today you're sitting in ORM department, tomorrow you may be sitting in that department. So be friendly with your people and tell them this is what it is. Friendly means not friendly to the point of not reporting it, but friendly to the point of saying that we are reporting it, but this is for these reasons. Okay, and make the separate steps separate and avoid selecting any step one what you might already know about step two. What does it mean? If you know that the process is already on, mitigating process is already on, don't start the step one. That is cheating. Okay, so you should not do that. So pick samples which highlight differences rather than paper them over, and keep an open mind. Okay, now we are going to see how we calculate the operational risk capital, the new method. This is important, friends, very important, because earlier we were just going with the basic indicator approach, which was the gross income over the last 3 years. Take the average of that, 15% of that was the operational risk capital. But that is too much. And it was non-linear. It was the way it was. See, the year, suppose in the last 3 years, 1 year I have made a loss, I had to discard that. So that means the year where I made a loss, I'm discarding that. Whereas that is the reason that could be a very big operational loss in that particular year. So that was not a correct method. So now we are going to do this. This is the basis. The BIC, business indicator component, which is what is it? It is a measure of income that increases with the bank size. Small bank, small income, big bank, big income. Okay, it's a measure of income multiplied by the internal loss multiplier. That is given. That is given by the RBI on the size of your business indicator. So this is multiplication BIC into ILM. So it is internal loss multiplier. That's why I said that loss register is very, very important. If you don't give, they'll give you a flat rate and that will be very high. Okay. And then to take this, what is this business income? It will be your interest, lease, dividend, all these absolute values. Services component, again, take the absolute values. Financial component, take the net P&L in the trading book plus the absolute value in the P&L banking book. Trading book means your investment banking, okay? Your securities trading, all that is your trading book. Not your, don't think trade finance is not that. It is trading book is your investment where you're trading securities. Absolute in the banking book. And then this is the risk sensitive component where you take from the bank's internal losses. That's why this ILM is a very critical thing which is taken from your bank's internal losses. For small banks, this is taken as 15 times. It's normally taken as 15 times of the average annual operation risk losses. It is straight away taken. Sorry. So this is, sorry, I made a mistake. For small banks, it's a different story. For the big banks, that is medium size and big banks, and I will tell you what the medium size and big banks are. Small banks are where business is below 8,000 crores. Okay. Medium banks are 8,000 to 24,000 crores. And 24,000 crores and above, it is the large banks. Okay. So it is taken as the ratio of loss component is taken as a 15 times average of the annual operation losses over the last 10 years. So if you don't have it for the last 10 years, they'll simply give you a blanket number. So that will be a big chunk and you'll lose out on operation risk capital. And here, this risk-weighted assets. What is the risk-weighted assets? If you take the total risk, your risk due to market risk, operation risk, and capital credit risk, that risk-weighted assets, the ORC into 12.5. This operation risk into 12.5 that will be taken here. And each bank is supposed to disclose the BI sub item for each year. And remember, I told you the different verticals, your product, services, processes, other credit, or all those things, foreign exchange, all of these things have to be taken. And here, as I said, the marginal coefficient, as per this, taken 12, 15, and 18. So for smaller banks, it is bucket one category. They just take the ORC with the equal, which is equal to the BIC. Whereas if it is other sizes, you multiply by the marginal coefficient. So now just coming to the presentation, how you should present to your bosses. Look, I told you the OR committee must meet once a month. How you should present. Today, friends, you also know, I also know, everything is visual. Okay. If you write long stories, nobody is going to read. Top management doesn't have the time to read. Okay. So what do? You give a executive summary. What has happened the last month? Just give an executive summary as to what were the operational risk events and how. Give the near miss events, give them actual events which cause losses. Okay, just a small summary. And then you give a heat map. Heat map means how much of risk. We have a heat map where we have, I'll show you the colors. But before that, I'll show you what are the risks that you have to declare. Control risk, unauthorized activity risk, processing risk, employment practice and workplace safety risk, personal and physical security risk, IT risk, crisis management. Crisis management, I'll tell you what it means and when I come to that. Internal fraud risk, external fraud risk, compliance risk. Okay. These are the 3 to 11, 3 to 12 rather. So 10 risks you have to declare. And in your Excel sheet, please give these headings. So if you have a particular topic, if you have a particular case which has happened in your branch, you have to put them in that bucket. But that bucket, is it your control risk? Was it your unauthorized activity risk? What is unauthorized activity? Somebody used my password. Somebody entered the strong room without permission. Okay. Or there was some customer who came and made a noise in the branch, who was not a customer, who just walked in and he made some noise. He threatened to shoot us all. So that is a risk. So that is an unauthorized activity risk. Processing risk. So all these things you give as a heading in the Excel sheet, and whatever risk you have to put them under that particular head. Then the loss due to that. What is a loss? Whether the loss was 1 lakh, the threshold is 1 lakh. 1 lakh and above only we have to bid. But loss was 1 lakh, 1.2 lakhs, and then the remarks. Remarks means whether police was called or it was taken care of or it was recovered from the customer, whatever. Sometimes you would overpay the customer. So whether you overpaid the customer and it was taken back from the customer, you can. So all these things will come there, and you will present a heat map like this. You'll give the executive summary like this. I told you, give it in tabular form. People will only read it easily. Otherwise, if you write stories, nobody is there to read it. So control risk mein kya hua? Then IT risk mein kya hua? The DCP mein, DR project mein kya hua? That is disaster recovery project mein kya hua? And what are your recommendations? So this is the heat map we give. So red is critical, 3 dark brown is high, yellow is medium, green is low. That means risk is low. So between last month and this month, what has happened? My risk has gone up in all cases except in the IT risk, where some project was on and the project has taken care of the risk, so it has come down. So in all other cases, the arrow which is showing upward, the risk is gone up. On each of those risks, I prepare a tabular column like this, and if it is critical, and friends, you can also take the risks from the last audit report. In the last audit report, please ask for the audit report. Okay, that audit report copy will be given to the operation risk department also. So whether it is credit or market risk or any of those, see if there's an operational risk issue over there. You are supposed to read the audit report. And depending on that, you're supposed to identify that risk. Remember, RCSA, I said you are supposed to identify the risk. Your financial markets may have some mitigating activity. Your credit department may have some mitigating activity. You're supposed to sit with them and find out and put them along here. Okay. For instance, when I say A1, A2, these are risks which are mentioned in the audit report, still not rectified. For instance, he may say, audit report may say that the keys of the cash room were left on the manager's table. It's a very risky thing, but it continues even today. So you put it here. Then this is your KRI. K, when I say K, it means KRI, your key risk indicator has shown this. We'll see how the key risk indicator is given. Then this is your internal, your information security, what kind of risk is. And this, luckily, on that particular month, we didn't have any high serious critical reports. So you give different rates here, amount here, whatever amounts you want to put depending on the size of the bank. So this is the key risk indicator we give. What is a key risk indicator? How many percentage of audit things were overdue? More than 1, more than 2. Overdue in audit is well within the levels. Then what about the local key risk indicators? Cash retention and user access review. User access review means how many times passwords were changed. Okay, we are supposed when we are working, we are supposed to change our password depending on certain intervals, depending on a bank's policy. Then has it been changed? Then how many of your post-dated checks received and not presented? How many instances your front office modified deals? This is in market risk, investment banking. When they put it in Excel, they modify deals. Okay, how many times they did it? All these things, they'll come as key risk indicators. If it is very serious, it will come as a red risk. If you take this is, I told you, in the information security, it came down. So here you see here in projects, we took this month. What was the risk, number of projects, and total number of projects, what is the percentage, and how many completed, okay, out of 100, now 85 completed, and so therefore the risk has come down. So you just give all these information. Unauthorized activity, I'm not going, you know that. Processing, I'll come to crisis management. Personal physical security. Crisis management. Friends, in some branches, some crisis may happen. Okay. For example, there could be a fire in a branch. There could be a theft in a branch. Okay. About a few years ago, we also read in the papers that a particular branch of a bank, it was very near the construction site. Okay. So those construction workers, they built a tunnel. They got access to the vault of the bank. They drilled open the vault. They took away all the valuables from the vault. At least if not all the lockers, some of the lockers. This was in the papers. I'm not naming the bank. This was in the papers. Now, this is a crisis. Now, in a crisis, can anybody talk to the police? Everybody, right from the clerk, right from the sub-staff, right from the officer, right from the second officer? No. In banks, there are designated officers who can talk to the external authorities, whether it is RBI, whether it is the police, whether it is the ED. Everybody cannot give his or her suggestion or his way of understanding things. So this is crisis management. So the crisis when a crisis happens, how do you respond? When a fire happens, who should, when you are supposed, see, the public are very, now this media is there, everybody takes a photo and sends it. When there's such a thing happening, you are not supposed to talk to anybody, including the public. It is only the authorized person who has to talk. That is why maybe the manager of the branch, or maybe the security officer who will come down. When such a thing happens, he'll come down from your regional office or your zonal office or wherever. So only he is authorized to talk, not even the manager. So the crisis management is critical. So you have to see that this crisis management is taken care of. This is very important, friends, because today fake news is a very dangerous thing. Social media was not so active when we were doing, but today social media is very active. Okay, so we have to be very careful, particularly when it happens in the branch, or there could be a fight between two customers or two staff and a customer. Any crisis, you are not supposed to talk to the public. Full stop. That's the answer. You only say, I do not know, please talk to the person concerned. That's it. Okay, so that is crisis management. Similarly, if BCP, if there's a crisis with regard to the operation itself, then there's a BCP. You cannot say, no, BCP people are taking care of all that. None of your business. Please ask them to talk to the manager. The manager will say when the systems will be on. Okay, so that. And disaster recovery project, that's an internal matter. So most of the DR projects are in Hyderabad because that is seismically considered to be a safe place. So places like southern part of India, Chennai and all the Tuticorin and all these places are seismically very active. This side again, Arabian Sea. This side you have Koina, Latur. All those places are very active, seismically very active. Gujarat in 2001, you had the Bhuj earthquake. Okay, so that time everything came down. So these are very seismically very active places. So disaster recovery, how does a system come up? Okay, so that is important. That now, and most of the companies have it in Hyderabad. So the DRP. So you don't talk about it. Let your authorized person talk about it. So this is internal fraud risk. You have to say whatever has happened. External fraud risk, if there's been, give the details. And then compliance risk. Okay, this I want to talk. client-related integrity risk. Was there any issue with regard to, for example, money laundering? Okay, this is with regard to compliance. You might have brought it in the compliance part there. Okay, you might have brought it in the control risk over there also. For some lack of control, that's why this has happened. No, but you have to bring it under compliance also. Then, was there any personal conduct related risk like market abuse, personal insider trading? What is insider trading? I am, suppose my bank, there's some big thing going to happen, okay? And I know that my bank stocks are going to go up. Immediately I buy the stocks. So that is as good as insider trading, okay? See, people like you and me may not be able to move the market, but people who are having huge amounts, and if I tell that person he can move the market, okay? In business principles and local code of conduct, how customers behave. And this is again a little bit, because India is such a vast country, friends, it's a little bit understated, but let me give you a simple example. If I'm working in Mumbai, the customer who comes, he'll be only interested in getting his cash or whatever thing done in 2 minutes and walk away, okay? But if I'm working in Bihar, the customer is going to be very irritated if I just send him back in 2 minutes. I'm supposed to call him, I'm supposed to give him chai, I'm supposed to say, how is your daughter, granddaughter? Then he'll come and give me some invitation for his son's wedding or somebody. I'm supposed to go there. All these things. In Bombay, nobody will bother. Even though he gives me the invitation for the son's wedding, if I say, no, I have time nahi raha, so he'll understand. But not so in Bihar, okay, in such a place. So these are the localized things that you have to take care of. Outside positions by officers. What is this moonlighting? You have heard nice songs about Chand and Moon and Nila and all those things. All those nice, beautiful songs, old songs particularly, about how beautiful the moon is and how beautiful the moonlight is. But moonlighting here is a bad word. Bad word in the sense, in a different way. What is the meaning of moonlight? Let us say I'm working for X bank. I go home at 6 o'clock. I start working for somebody else. Okay? So the double people who do that, the second hustle as you call it. So that is, many people were caught, particularly when this work from home came during this COVID time. Many people were caught for this moonlighting, especially officers. Okay, so be careful about that. And then inducements. You give gift credit के लिए हमारे ये काम करा दो आपको gift देते हैं with credit. Whistleblower's integrity is very important. Whistleblower safety is important. Okay, such a big company like Goldman Sachs, how the whole thing blew up? Because a whistleblower, he mentioned it and he was thrown out of the company. So whistleblower security is important. Financial services conduct related risks, because financial services means, see, where money is there, the room for cheating is very high, friends, and the room for temptation is very high. So marketing, sales and trading conduct, people will sell only those products where they get maximum permission. Conduct of advisory business. Transparency of product offerings. You know that this customer is 60 years old. You're not supposed to, sell stock-related products to him, but you sell him some stock-related products. You're not supposed to do that for senior citizens. That is product offerings. Customer interest and protection. How do you handle customers' complaints? You say, no, aap grievance cell ko likh do. That is not a way of handling it. You have to find out what it is. You have to find out whether you can handle it then and there instead of going to the... Yes, you have to send it to the grievance mechanism saying that this was a problem and we handle this like this, so that it becomes a learning process for some other branches. Then data protection and privacy, very, very critical. Then the organization's conduct is also important. How they take the conflicts of interest. Okay, if I'm let's say I am a CEO of some bank. If I am sitting on the board of some other company, it's a conflict of interest. That company may be banking with me. If you take a slight reference here, I'll make. That was what happened to Madam Chanda Kochar. So sad. Such a lady, she was so brilliant. Her career was just taking off. It was taking off like a jet plane. But you see what happened. It was a conflict of interest matter. Internal standards with regard to new product approval. Are they robust? Are the standards taking care of all the requirements? And what are the sector industry? For instance, because of the ESG, I may say, no, any company which is manufacturing cigarettes, I'm not going to lend. Or any company which is manufacturing alcohol, I'm not going to lend. That could be a sector standards, regulatory registration requirements, and oversight of intermediaries. You may have intermediaries like Punjab National Housing is there. Punjab National Bank Housing. It's a different company altogether, but it is coming under the umbrella of Punjab National. So you have to see if there is any relation between you as a bank and also Punjab National Housing. So you have to take care of that also. So these are the compliance risks and key industry trends. This will give as a matter of information. So that's about it.